Take yourself back to early 2009. Where were you? What were you doing? Perhaps you were on the internet in your parents' basement computer, and an online friend sent you a link to a site known at the time as MS Paint Adventures, telling you to check out a brand new interactive webcomic they had found. Perhaps you had started reading this comic, and every update brought you back for more as you watched a young man standing in his bedroom begin to play a game that would change his life, and possibly your own, forever. This webcomic was known as Homestuck. In this video, we are going to go through its humble beginnings all the way to its bittersweet end and beyond. First, I'd like to take a moment and ask that you click subscribe and give this video a like, and comment on what you want to see next. I'm hoping to do more fandom-related videos, touching on more than just Homestuck, and I'd love to see you there for each and every one. Fair warning, this video is going to contain major spoilers for Homestuck, as well as its companion games, Hiveswap, Friend Sim, and PesterQuest. Now then, what is Homestuck? You might have just clicked this video for a source of background noise without knowing just what you're diving into. Homestuck is an interactive webcomic written and mostly drawn by Andrew Hussie that debuted on April 13th, 2009. It featured a young man standing in his bedroom on his birthday, and it turned into a bit of an internet phenomenon. If you were there on the internet in the first few years of its running, you either read the comic or have at least heard of it. I personally was introduced to it at Bible Camp in 2013. You may be asking yourself right now, Dewey, why are you making this video? There are several others like it out there. Well, I'm considering this a personal video essay passion project of sorts. Perhaps I'll fill in the gaps that others may have left out. I also want to focus on Homestuck and its fandom in one whole video rather than separate the two, because I see the two as incomplete when separated. At its peak, Homestuck had around 1 million unique readers a day and had an insane cult following, with its peak being seen in 2011. Practically every fan convention had at least one or two candy corn horns in the mix. What caused this popularity? Why did it fall apart in the end? What's next? Find out and more in this video. In 2009, Andrew Hussie uploaded the first pages of Homestuck. It started out as a reader-driven comic, much like his older works, where fans would submit update ideas, and, if you were lucky, your idea would be included. Much of the groundwork for what the comic became came from these submissions. Most fans at this point had come from Hussie's previous works such as Jailbreak and Problem Sleuth, which had seen mild success. Andrew Hussie ended user submissions during Act 4, but has since admitted that he still has used ideas and fan theories. Days before Homestuck officially started, Andrew Hussie released the Homestuck beta on April 10, 2009. Homestuck beta was meant as a way to try using a non-MS Paint style of art. He later decided to get back to his usual style, though he did include a new style commonly referred to as Hero Mode. Through its lengthy running, Homestuck included many pop culture references, from references to old movies like Con Air to Leet Speak, which the trolls use in their dialogue. Most references go by different names, like the captcha log system, but there are a few big names that make it into the comic. So my cat has decided to guest star in this video. So if you hear him purring throughout the various audio files that I'm using to put this together, pay no mind, or just say in the comments, "Hi, Phoenix." Early in the comic, we learn of John Egbert's love for the wildly successful actor Nicolas Cage. A few of his movies are mentioned, and even certain parts of the story are complete references to said movies, such as the bunny plush that John receives for his birthday, as well as musical references. Nick Cage isn't the only big name that Homestuck coins. Throughout the comic, heavy references to the very well-known baking company Betty Crocker have been made. The grist system in the game Suburb has a currency that looks a whole heck of a lot like Betty Crocker's Fruit Gushers, a flavorful snack. Betty Crocker also makes her wicked debut as one of Homestuck's villains, her imperious condescension. There are several other references to the Batter Witch peppered around the comic, but if I tried to list them all, we could be here for a while. Another big piece of pop culture is the American hip-hop band Insane Clown Posse, or ICP. One character, Gamzee Makara, is a blatant reference to the group, though when it is mentioned to him by Dave Strider, another one of the human kids, he is filled with an intense rage. Later on in the comic, the members of ICP actually make an appearance as themselves in an alternate timeline Earth. I won't spoil more than that for you in case you haven't read the comic yet, and are using this video as background noise while you experience existential dread about the world we live in, or are doing homework or something. I don't know how you live your life. I'm not you. Or am I? In any case, the ingredients were in place for Homestuck to become a massive success. Word of the comic spread through the internet and through word of mouth like wildfire, and the fandom truly began. The best was yet to come for the budding webcomic. While the official start of the comic may have been in 2009, its true popularity shined around 2011. By now, many people around the world had gotten into the fandom, and cosplayers were starting to appear in various conventions. It was said you couldn't go to an anime con without seeing candy corn horns and gray face paint. They had become a staple of any convention, which of course drove up readership. There was a meme around this time called "Let Me Tell You About Homestuck." Typically, it was people in cosplay doing strange activities while people in normal attire witnessed. This meme even made its way into a song with the same name by Stop It's Ginger Time, who also goes by Allegra. This song came out in the December of 2011. This wasn't the only meme that came out of the comic, though most of them came during its peak popularity, which was between 2011 and 2013. One such meme was the use of buckets in unconventional and taboo ways that are not safe for work. No, I will not be elaborating any further on what they were used for in the comic. Another meme came about from a comic that one of the characters makes called Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff, where one of the two men is falling down the stairs and the other is saying, "I warned you about the stairs, bro. I told ya, dog." This exploded within the fandom, and recreations of the comic were made with various characters, and even a medieval art version was created. Random internet users weren't the only ones who read the webcomic or interacted with it. There are a few notable celebrities who have either read or made references to the comic during its long runtime. Probably the most noteworthy celebrity is actor Dante Bosco, who played Rufio in Hook and voiced Zuko in Avatar: The Last Airbender, as well as several other roles. Dante has been influential in the fandom and has even gotten involved with the comic. How did he even find the comic, though? Simply put, his own fans urged him to check out the comic when it was learned that he had his own reference in Homestuck. Since then, he has made some contributions to the fandom, including a song titled Geekin' Out. There had also been a project that he had announced about a Homestuck continuation, but he has since gone silent on his project. One more rather interesting celebrity that interacted with the fandom was Snoop Dogg, or Lion, or whichever name he has these days, himself. Now, this is a minor add-in, as it was a one-off mention, but in 2013, Snoop reposted a rather risque fan art drawn by Tumblr user Chazerpan. The image features Snoop smoking something that we aren't going to discuss, with Nebita and Mulin Lejeune, two of the trolls. Of course, this garnered a bit of excitement in the fandom, with some speculating that Snoop did, in fact, read Homestuck. I have not confirmed this idea thus far, but if you know for sure, feel free to say so in the comments below. Moving on, let's put ourselves in the year 2011. You're browsing the web as you usually do, and you decide to check on your new favorite webcomic, Homestuck. It's late October, and you're getting excited for Halloween. It's late in the day when you find an update titled Cascade. You click, and nothing. Nothing is working. That is because Andrew Hussey launched the largest Flash animation to date at about 13 minutes in length. Anticipating the huge amount of traffic to his site, Hussey decided to host Cascade on the website Newgrounds. Unfortunately, unleashing hordes of fans on this site caused it to crash, and he later tweeted out a comedic, "Well, that didn't work." Why was the traffic to this site so intense? The fans had been waiting weeks for the update, and when it finally came, chaos ensued. Hussey has since learned his lesson and uploaded the much longer flashes to YouTube. Not only that, but the fandom has died down quite a bit since Cascade, and the traffic to YouTube didn't crash the site. Taking a small jump in time, we reached the Giga Pause, the first of quite a few long hiatuses that may have become the nails in the coffin for the fandom. A funny story, but I caught up with the comic the literal day before the comic went on the first hiatus, and the next day it came and I absolutely blamed myself for it. I, a 14-year-old kid, caused the Giga Pause. Sorry, everybody. This pause lasted exactly 1 year and was the longest of the hiatuses in the main comic's history. This was overtaken by a very long 3-year hiatus with Homestuck Beyond Canon, which has recently ended at the time of this video. Yes, Homestuck is back, if you didn't know. When the Giga Pause started, I sought out outlets to engage with the fandom, and I had found quite a few. You see, the Homestuck fandom, like many others, is filled with incredible talent, from animators to coders to everything in between. I had so much to fill the void left by the comic's hiatus. One such outlet was MSPARP, now called MXRP. This is a website for text-based role-playing and was formerly focused on the Homestuck fandom but has since moved on to be multi-fandom. Just like the comic itself, this site has seen many ups and downs, from ownership changes to site downtime, and now to a complete site revamp that has been ongoing for some time. Another site that came out during the Giga Pause was Paradox Space. This was semi-official Homestuck content, though it was not part of the comic's canon. Paradox Space released several comics with various themes and settings. One notable comic was called Summer Teen Romance and featured the trolls going through a summer camp, and chaos ensues naturally. What's unfortunate is that these one-shot comics did not continue. One can hope with the revival of Beyond Canon, Paradox Space may continue. Over the years, there have been many fan projects and fan works. As with any fandom, there has been fan fiction, but notably, there have been fan stories with original characters in the same universe. Many of these stories revolve around original characters, or OCs for the sappy fandom participant, having their own suburb or sugrub session. A good chunk of these stories were uploaded to a site known as MSPFA. My favorite, yet discontinued story was called Nightfall. There were also a few fan continuations that popped up after the original comic ended. This was, of course, before the epilogues and Beyond Canon came out. Another notable fan project was Broadway Homestuck. Several fans came together to make parody music, singing as if they were the characters. The most popular one being Broadway Carcat, who brought us Carcalicious and Be a Fanboy. Another artist was Kylie Henke, who brought what I consider as the fandom anthem, You Can't Fight the Homestuck. I can remember wanting to be a part of this, yet doubting my singing ability. I had a few parodies written once, yet they never came to fruition. Maybe one day. These parody songs were uploaded to YouTube, yet they weren't the only fan videos the Homestuck fandom created. Octopimp, for example, created many videos where he took a fan-made comic and voiced it. Many other creators have done this as well, giving the fandom voices to their favorite characters. Onto the more capitalistic side of things, there have been several ways for fans to get merch, and more may come in the future. Let's start with Hot Topic. I remember from my early days in the fandom, I'd gotten a couple of t-shirts from everyone's favorite place to get their Invader Zim and anime shirts, as well as punk outfits and more. They didn't have much in terms of Homestuck merch, which is a shame, as I thought they would have been the best place for it. The comic is niche, and Hot Topic tended to be the place to be for niche merch. Instead, we were subjected to We Love Fine, also known as For Fans by Fans. Through my research, I found that this site has actually shut down. Why was this site so bad? It's mostly due to artists not being paid well or at all, as well as allegations of stolen art. Want to support artists in a better way that gives them more money for their creations? Check out the Homestuck merch on Redbubble, which is currently the main place to get merch at this time. Looking at this site for the video, I found quite a few that I may actually get in the future. As with any fandom, Homestuck is rife with fandom controversy and drama. In this section, we are going to take a look at a couple of events that truly made their mark on the fandom's history. Firstly, going to a convention is an exciting time for any Homestuck fan. They've spent ages making their perfect cosplay. They dress up and don their horns. What's next? Face paint. The fans take their Snazaroo brand gray face paint and apply it along with some makeup. But wait! Where's their face sealer? Looks like they forgot to buy some, and the con is in less than an hour, and the panel they wanted to see is the first on the schedule. They decide to go without it. This would be a mistake. As Homestuck grew in popularity, more and more people began to cosplay the characters, particularly the trolls, which required face paint to replicate their gray skin. This caused problems for the convention venues, especially hotels, as the face paint would cause damage to plumbing when cosplayers would wash it off. The paint would also get everywhere if it wasn't sealed properly. This resulted in certain hotels and cons banning either face paint or Homestuck cosplay completely. If you're going to cosplay, make sure you do so respectfully, especially if your cosplay can get a little messy. Face paint getting everywhere is nothing compared to this second controversy, though it also has to do with cosplaying. Before going to a con called Anime Expo, a girl and her roommates went to their hotel room, and the girl went to the bathroom, stating that she needed to put her makeup on. She was cosplaying as Terezi Pyro, one of the trolls. Instead of taking the typical route of face paint, this girl decided to take a bath in 70% alcohol and a lot of Sharpies. Now, I would like to make this clear to all of you watching this. Do not take a Sharpie bath. It will not go well for you. It certainly didn't go well for this cosplayer. Not only did she get skin poisoning, but she also had to pay $700 in damage fees to the hotel before being kicked out. Her roommates had said that the Sharpie was everywhere in the bathroom. I wonder where that girl is now. On a more lighthearted, albeit strange note, when Andrew Hussey launched a Kickstarter for his game Hiveswap, he included a tier for anyone who would donate $10,000 to the Kickstarter. This tier ensured that your hostee would make it into the comic for at least one page. The funny thing is, 2 people actually did that, and their trolls were featured in one page before dying horribly on the next page. This tier did not ensure survival. It is likely that there are more isolated, controversial events, but these are the main ones that made some serious waves in the fandom. The fandom isn't the only controversial aspect of Homestuck. There have been several incidents involving the creator and bad dealings with third parties. Let's start with Andrew Hussey himself. Certainly, nobody would call the Homestuck author a saint. He has stirred quite a few controversies in the past decade and a half since the comic began, though you could call these controversies a product of their time. 2009 was a much different place than 2024, and people change, so please do not go after the author for these mistakes. Firstly, there have been multiple instances where characters or narration would include harmful slurs, including some that I myself am very much not okay with. And this is primarily in the early days of the comic, though I would like to use this platform to call out Andrew Hussey for not going back and changing the words, but that's probably me beating a dead horse at this point, as Hussey is not even actually part of the comic anymore. One notable instance of the insensitivity of the writing was the Caucasian incident, though first some backstory that led to this. Andrew Hussey has made his characters purposefully ambiguous in terms of topics like race and appearance. Many fans have headcanons about their favorite characters, such as them being trans or ace, as well as people of color. Now, I'm just some white girl, so I know I gotta be careful with how I phrase things. Please call me out in the comments if I say something wrong. Being an ally is a learning experience at all times. Now, it was during Act 6, Act 5 when Hussey released Trickster Mode. I'll keep the details on it as brief as possible to avoid spoilers for those of you here who have never read Homestuck. The basic gist is that a few characters tasted a candy that made them candy-themed, and their designs immensely changed. That part is fine, sure. The problem came in the dialogue. Originally, what was said was, "I feel so great, I feel so great, I feel so alive, I feel so Caucasian." Thankfully, this has been changed to say peachy instead of Caucasian, but many in the fandom had seen the original text as problematic and racist. When I read the comic, I missed this incident as it was already changed. Props to Andrew Hussey for listening to the fanbase and fixing his mistake as well as issuing an apology. What about you? If you read the comic and were there for it, feel free to post your experience with it in the comments. I'd love to read about the drama. One more controversy was Skynet. An obvious reference to the Terminator movies, Skynet was not just created by Andrew Hussey, but his company, What Pumpkin. It was a site that periodically released lore to fill in some of the backstory of Homestuck. What made it problematic was that some of its content could be seen as anti-Semitic, and it also made major changes to historical figures in bad ways. The site has since gone down, though some have decided to take the code and source it themselves if you have any interest on reading up on it. Moving on from Andrew Hussey himself, What Pumpkin has seen some rough patches. The Kickstarter, for example, was a huge mess. A while back, a Kickstarter was launched in 2012 to create a Homestuck adventure game. While this game did eventually come out years later, called Hiveswap, it saw some serious obstacles. The original company that was going to create this game was known as The Odd Gentleman, and they ended up being pretty shady. It was announced in 2014 that the game was turning to in-house development, and it turned out that the reason for it was because the Odd Gentleman company stole money from the Kickstarter and ended up making their own game titled King's Quest. Hiveswap lost a lot of money, and everything had to begin from scratch. The game eventually released in 2017, which is honestly better than when compared to other companies that exist in the gaming industry. You may have thought we were done talking about controversial things coming out, but buckle up, Buttercup, you are in for a ride here. In this section, we are going to discuss the proverbial nails in the coffin for Homestuck. The first nail that was struck was the Homestuck epilogues. Back in 2016, Homestuck officially ended, but that did not mean it was the end of Homestuck content. After a string of Snapchat images were released, giving us closure on what our favorite characters were up to, Andrew Hussey unleashed upon us the nightmare that was the epilogues. The epilogues were split into two sections, meat and candy, and readers chose what they wanted to read first. Sure, that was all well and good, but the problem arose in terms of content. Andrew gave us a fairly lengthy content warning list that had quite a few concerning topics. Here's the list shown on the screen if you'd like to pause and read it. Many fans became uncomfortable and even left the fandom because of this. Other than the content topics, there were problems with what characters did or had to go through. Now, I'm keeping this spoiler free, so I won't be giving you details here, but certain characters had done things that were very out of character for them, sometimes ruining entire character arcs from the main story. The epilogues led us to Homestuck 2 Beyond Canon, which I will be referring to as HS2 from this point on. Now, at its current state, there has been an ownership switch a few months ago, so we should reserve judgment for the continuation. But that does not mean we ignore what has happened up to this point. Homestuck 2, HS2, has continued the blatant decharacterization of certain characters, turning them into megamaniacal villains instead of the heroes we knew them as. The original team that worked on this project was not too good at communicating with the fandom as well, abruptly putting HS2 on pause for about 3 years and then completely abandoned it. James Roach recently brought the project back on with a brand new team of passionate people. I hope that this continuation will fix what went wrong with the last team. The final nail in the coffin for Homestuck was the death of Adobe Flash. The comic had many parts that utilized Flash, including animations and even small-scale games, where you could walk around as characters and talk to other characters. The entire internet was affected by Adobe's decision to shut down Flash, taking down many of our old favorite browser-based games, but it made it very hard to read Homestuck. Fortunately, a fan by the name of Bamboshu created the unofficial Homestuck collection, which allowed new readers and those who wish to reread the opportunity to enjoy the comic as it was always meant to be enjoyed. So, is Homestuck dead now? Far from it. We are seeing a revitalization of the fandom with new content and new events periodically coming out. HiveSwap is still in development with Act 3 in the works. New images were revealed at SawCon. It's good to see that, despite the setbacks we discussed earlier, HiveSwap is still being made. Another important thing that happened this year was Requiem Cafe. Fans came together to drink Homestuck-themed drinks and meet their favorite creators such as Octopimp. It was an 18 and up event with alcohol, trivia, cosplay, and I really wish I could have attended. Notably, we were given official canon heights for the characters at this event. One more mention is something that happened around the time I first started writing this script. So apparently there's an app that lets you pay to post an ad that would display at Times Square in New York City, and someone actually bought it and advertised Homestuck, which was honestly an impressive feat. 2023 had been a big year for Homestuck, and I am eager to see what is next. Maybe one day I'll have to make a second edition of this video. Homestuck has been a highly influential pop culture phenomenon that has shaped the internet in its own unique way. The fandom has shaped the outside world for better or for worse. There have been many ups and downs and downright wacky events. Thank you so much for watching. This video has been worked on for a few months, and I hope you really enjoyed it, and if you made it to this point, what do you think? Would you like to see more of this kind of content from me? Let me know in the comment section. And if you are feeling generous, give the video a like, and if you are feeling really generous, consider subscribing. Everything helps me to get on the radar to be able to bring my content to more people like you. I'm hoping to be more active now, though I have no set schedule. That makes it important for you to subscribe and click the notification icon. Have yourself a wonderful day, night, or any time in between.
So, Future Kelsey here. So this video has been in on and off production chaos for like 2 years, and I'm finally getting it done now. It is almost February of 2025. It's been a wild year. Some more stuff has come to light, Homestuck-wise. We now have a car cat plushie, which is kind of cool. I kind of want it. But yeah, so ignore the inaccurate years in the video. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed it though. So please leave a like, leave a subscribe, and have an awesome day.